And if we're talking about well-being in general and about health and about thought process, maybe about mind chatter, have you noticed any changes lately?
There have been health issues that I thought wouldn't be there. When you're a master, you don't have health issues. When you're a master, you don't have emotional roller coasters. When you're a master, you don't fight with your spouse. None of that's true.
I would say there's more physical pain, but also, strangely enough, there's more tolerance for pain. Like, maybe it's more like, there is physical pain almost on a daily basis, but then I kind of hear what my body needs in order to shift it. So it's not too bad.
You're here and you're healthy. It's also very important because for a lot of us, we have had some serious health issues since then. But for you, I guess, health-wise, it was not a problem at all, right?
No. I gotta say, I was very fortunate, and because of dancing and everything. So I gotta say, I was fortunate when it comes to that. Yeah. It was easier for me to move energy.
I've been so tired. I've always been so tired. I kept on saying to myself, like, I'm so tired today. I'm so tired today. Now it's, what do you say? It's something that comes out of my mouth without really being tired. Right now, since I don't have a job, I can get up, go to sleep whenever I want to. I shouldn't be tired and I should be able to do whatever I want to. So
not working and being tired all the time, it's perfectly normal for a master because are working. Yeah, totally. Because you're working through so much energy. You're releasing a lot. You're doing all of that energy work on other levels. And it can get you very tired, even if you didn't do a single thing physically during the day.
Thank you so much. No wonder.
I've had a lot of trouble with that. I've had a lot of trouble with that myself.
I was asking Kuthumi, what's going on? Why do I have this pain? And normally he can say all kind of things. So when I tuned in myself and when I asked him, it was this light body integration. That was the answer. And I said, what can I do? And he only said, breathe, drink a lot of water, and talk to your master. Okay, aye, sir. Because talk to your master means be the master, right? Be in your own mastery. So the only thing I could do was like be open, accept what was going on and breathe with it, and sometimes say, it's almost more than I can handle. I never said stop it, but I was close to it. I was never like suicidal or so. I've never been that in my life, but it was really at the border of what I could handle. Mm-hmm. But I was at the same time, I felt safe. I felt okay with myself. The best was when I was in my mastery. And so it was just breathing with it and enduring it. I mean, what else can you do? Just accept it.
Different people do different things. So for some, being in so much pain, and I know that on my own experience, when you're in so much pain for a long time, you just want to leave. You're struggling so much, you're suffering so much, you feel like I cannot do this anymore.
Да, с момента Небесного Креста физические боли усилились. Да, они присутствуют, да, это все стало интенсивнее, да, это неприятно. Я с этим согласна, но момент морковки перед осликом, что в конечном итоге мы не гонимся за уходящим солнцем, как все эти воплощения годы, а в конечном итоге цель будет достигнута здесь и сейчас, но на это нужны какие-то временные определенные рамки, это очень радует.
My body's doing pretty well. Aches and pains here and there. And I feel it's pretty much always connected to the bottleneck experience. Like when there's this receiving of energy, it can evoke some pains. And also when there's this release of energy, it can also evoke something in the body. And sometimes I get really focused in the body, like, oh, what's happening here? Like that, but then that's also released.
Did that pain, that amount of pain, did it make you doubt your mastery at all or not?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Why?
No, it didn't. It just didn't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I knew what was going on. No, I didn't feel like it questioned my mastery. I felt it. The more I was in the mastery, the better I could handle it.
I have also had these physical issues come up, like thyroid things and all kinds of, like, because I tend to react to things also physically quite strongly. So sometimes that comes up, but yeah, I don't really worry about it in the sense I used to before. It's just, okay, this is coming up, it's releasing, it's doing its thing. It's not that pleasant when your hair falls off in chunks, but it's like, well, something's releasing, okay.
Well, interestingly, after our last interview, not sure if it had anything to do with the interview, maybe it had, but that same night, I had a kind of an allergy attack where my throat swelled so that I can breathe and needed to go to the ER. And I thought, that's interesting. Like, here I am in this interview speaking, using my voice, and then my body's having such a reaction in this throat area.
Yeah, so that's one thing, like not hiding anymore, not compromising out of that fear. And I feel like that thyroid issue, like around my neck, like this strangling sensation around my neck. It's an old issue that I experienced before in my life for prolonged periods, and now I feel it's just coming up and it's going. Also, I just trust that, so I don't meddle with it. I support myself, but I don't meddle with it. So I feel like this is really releasing that old karmic thing as well, this old aspect that burned or buried alive or head chopped off or things like that.
Thyroid is it's a gland. It's directly related with this joy not coming through. As if we were to translate it into more energetic terms, it's all the same issue, or all this area, not letting your voice come through, not letting your true self come through.
Yeah, I've had some physical challenges that have messed with my human mind. Sometimes worrying or sometimes wondering what else is happening or what else is going on. So there's been more physical issues for me, which are not entirely typical. And yet behind all that, there's a calmness. It's like it doesn't really matter. I know I'm okay. So there's this fun little play between my human mind wanting to worry about my health or a physical issue, not something dramatic. And then there's also a calmness. So it's a funny juxtaposition between those two things happening right now.
Does your mind tell you, let's go to the doctor? It's really serious. We have to.
Well, I think sometimes it's important to go to a doctor. I mean, I don't negate that at all. Sometimes I need to see a doctor, but it's not like the mind chatters, oh my God, I'm dying and I better go run to the emergency. No, but it's a clear, conscious choice. Yeah, I think I need some extra help with this.
So your skin issues, all those rashes, they just went away by themselves? You didn't do anything?
One of my doctors was a real nice doctor, and he told me that doing nothing is the best. And that meant that I don't need to go to doctors. And one point, I quit going to doctors, taking medication. I threw away all the medication and said, oh, I'm gonna just let it cure on its own. And it took time. It took like a real long time, but it did go away.
I used to, even like with supplements, you know, during COVID and such, I suddenly felt the need of having certain supplements. So I took them for some time. And now, like this year, most of the time now, I still have some left over here. And part of, my practical side is like, I just use them up, so they're gone. But then I'm like, why should I? So it's interesting just having this different, how should I say, this feelings of, okay, now I feel like taking a supplement, and then another day, like, no, now I'm done, and just trusting this feeling, this inside feeling, and just trusting it, without needing to know why that is, right?
I know as a healer, if you take allopathic medicine, it will stop the energetic flow and also the inner insights. So that was no option for me. Only if I have to go to Germany at a certain time, and I thought, if I have to go there because I have an appointment with my dentist, if I have pain, then I will myself up with medicine as much so I can function and I can do. That's the only time I would do that.
So I'm absolutely no fan of taking pills, but I say if I go one time a year by plane to Hawaii, then I went to my doctor and said, please give me a pill for this extreme fear of panic. It's just not to make it easy for me, but because I love myself, I said, I don't want to experience this again.
Yeah. So how has it been physically since the Heaven's Cross? It's been 3 months since the opening. How have you been? Have there been any changes physically? Also in your perception, what can you share?
For me personally, the disadvantage of the realm work was that I did neglect my body some. I gained weight and I was in very good shape, but that didn't seem to matter. That wasn't what was important. While I was going through all that and doing that right, all this last decade, 15 years, I said to myself, someday this is all going to change and I'm going to take care of my body. So I hit the someday that I always thought would come, that my life would be my own. And it's now.
I tend to metabolize consciousness like food. I tend to metabolize it through my body when I'm active. When my body is moving, I'm more able to really ground the consciousness, I guess you could say. So I hike, I walk, I bike. I love being on my bike and feeling the wind and the air and just the energy as I'm biking. So that's what helps me live with this information, live with this transformation, live with this consciousness and the light that I feel like I've been bringing in, is to be in my body and to move it.
I have more appetite now, doing more with my body since March, April, and that could be, for many reasons, because before, as a realm worker, right, it was like more important, just being not so active. But now suddenly I feel like, I want to do more stuff with my body, and now I even go, some circuit training here and there. Yesterday I went boxing.
Physically, I find myself a lot more active and
hear that.
Really just enjoying my body in ways that I don't remember ever enjoying it. And I guess in terms of the tools available to me now, I find that I can take that deep breath and shed all kinds of things in the moment that in a deeper way than I've ever been able to before.
Preference for food has changed. I mean, a simple food is much better for me, like rice or meat or vegetables, whatever it is, just tasting it was much better. I mean, it was more tastier. I didn't need so much toppings or gravy or whatever. Yeah.
I've been making some really healthy dishes that are just wonderful. And for me, that's the experience of enjoying being in my body in a way that I've never had before.
Yeah, before, like in December, January, the time between a workshop and that, I felt all those changes happening. For example, I always, I was kind of addicted to croissants. So when I went to a coffee place and had my coffee, I always had like croissant. But suddenly I had like this kind of feeling, no, I'm okay. I don't need a croissant, I'm okay with that. That's the calmness where I'm like, it's not like I had to talk myself into not having one. It was like, no, I'm okay not having one, right? So it's interesting. So those changes where I feel like this is like, where my body just doesn't want them anymore.
Я могу сказать, что если раньше ты там ешь эту прекраснейшую еду и получаешь наслаждение, то здесь ты употребляешь в дорогих ресторанах эту еду, и ты понимаешь, что ты не испытываешь наслаждения, ты потерял наслаждение гусеницы, да? Момент, как будто бы, знаешь, оторвали момент наслаждения гусеницы. Я пью, ем то, что я любила всегда, а я не чувствую, мне невкусно. Я думаю, может больше соли, может быть больше специй, может больше алкоголя.
Я очень хорошо знаю это ощущение. Иногда у меня это доходило вплоть до полной неспособности чувствовать вообще что-либо.
Да.
То есть ты все видишь, слышишь, пробуешь. Да. И от чувств у тебя нет, как будто
нет.
Ты вот как паралитик. Да,
онемение.
Да.
И вот это ощущение, это не ощущение серой зоны, это не ощущение депрессии, это не ощущение чего-то негативного, это ощущение «я не чувствую, удовольствие гусеницы закончилось, света не хватает, чтобы включить удовольствие бабочки». Не хватает света, в этом я признаю.
And now that you had that very intense, in a way, experience of things getting released, any other things that you've noticed about your current state of awareness of your consciousness?
Yeah,
that's anything else that you've noticed?
Beautiful, interesting. Yeah, I felt like there was this kind of bottleneck where I sort of held back. And that's when, in my experience, there tends to be more of this like very human focus and a lot more mental energy and like maybe worry and doubt and stuff like that. And as soon as that bottleneck is sort of relieved and there's this expansion, then it's just much more quiet again and just simple and just expansive.
Yeah, when it comes to mind chatter, I just, I don't really feel that chatter anymore. I really don't. It's mostly, for me now, it's mass consciousness, so I realize it's not even me. It really is not. It's like 90% chatter that happens is when I go to Costco, or when I go on what we call here a lead drive, like a little Corso where you walk, when I'm in midst of the crowd, then I can feel the chatter in my head. But I know why it is there. So I don't really feel that chatter anymore. So I guess I can say that that's also another difference in the last few months.
How about the thought process in general? Because sometimes when this awareness comes, okay, this is not me, this is not mine. But sometimes the thoughts, they come too, along with the awareness, and sometimes they also throw you off, kind of.
I've developed a pretty good sense of humor about my own thought processes, and
great to hear.
When I would catch myself going into some rabbit hole and going down to, just laugh, and just say, yep, okay, there you are. That's what happens when the mind is still using its old survival guide, trying to figure everything out. And it doesn't need to do that anymore, So I'll laugh, and that diffuses the tension around it.
And your mind, how does it like the changes? How is it doing with all the switching of your perception?
In my mind, it better likes it, so otherwise. But I feel like it's trying, my mind is like, okay, got it, receiving, outside, inside. But there's then always this tendency, not always, but it's still there. It's like, okay, then how can I use that, to manipulate in a certain way? And then my awareness kicks in, like, oh, my mind is trying to do this, right? And it's like, and then it's coming back to my own feeling. But the mind is, it's much better. I have to compliment my mind. It's doing a good job.
My mind is fucked up. No, but yeah, it's this ebb and flow. I mean, yeah, sometimes there's much more mental activity, even worry, even like doubt, whatnot. But the difference, I guess, is that I don't necessarily lose myself in that, or I just kind of dip and dive and come back. And there's not much of like, oh, it shouldn't be this way. It is what it is, because it is like everything is realization. Everything is that. And so there's no distractions in a way.
My mind is basically fried. I like it when Adama said, we're taking this slowly because we don't want you to blow up, or burn out. That's one big thing I've noticed since Heaven's Cross is my mind is gone. I mean, I can still do common tasks, but I can also just stand there and not make a decision. Do I want to ride my bike? Do I want to go swimming? What do I want for dinner? I don't know what to wear today. Which grocery store should I? And I just talk about the intersection. It's like all the cars come into the intersection all at once. Yeah, my mind's gone. I guess that's okay. It's funny to get used to that.
As long as I'm in my own space, it's pretty easy. But I still notice when I spend time with people, especially people who are not super aware, I still get caught up a little bit in that, like overthinking.
Для меня в любом случае чувствование опыта возникает, когда я договорюсь с головным мозгом, когда головной мозг ментал, да, разум, и не головной мозг, насыщен той информацией, которую я слышу. Она всегда подается для меня интеллектуально. Этот момент очень важен, чтобы информация была интеллектуальной. И подаваясь интеллектуально, разговаривая с моими программами, с моими фильтрами, когда головной мозг удовлетворен, он сразу же эту энергию пропускает. Если он не удовлетворен, он ее не пропускает, она реально в запоре. Поэтому для меня в любом случае волшебная таблетка – это семинары Алого Круга. Ничего другого, несмотря на то, что я параллельно читаю большое количество материала, я наблюдаю за другими людьми, за другими школами, не потому что я хочу их анализировать, потому что я хочу видеть других виде оттенки деталей матрицы.
What really happened for me, it feels like everything sort of emptied out, like concepts behind thoughts or words, they just emptied out. Thoughts and words are empty.
Yeah, empty for the human perception, maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because it's like I do have thoughts, but they don't have anything behind them, or they don't stick, or they don't matter.
And you're feeling more into those things that actually have energy behind them, that have actual energy behind them. And so then you're feeling into them. They are very full. But all of those mind creations and my projections, you don't buy into them anymore. And you're like, yeah, whatever, thoughts, go away.
It feels like being in the reality of this present moment. And the present moment is just not some strict now moment. It's full and it's empty at the same time. It's empty of any meaning, yet it's very meaningful, full of like this. My goodness, what liberation is! That's why it feels so light, also.
How about your dreams? Has anything changed in that respect?
Yeah. I guess now I'm having the kinds of dreams that I'm imagining that most people have. It's like very human dreams, like dreaming about people that I know, about future potentials or past potentials, but it's pretty related to my human life. And there have been a few intense dreams, but it just happens very rarely. It's not the level of intensity as before. Now I feel like it's mostly just for integration purposes.
Хорошо. У тебя как-нибудь изменилось состояние сна?
То есть ужасы прекратились, фильм ужасов прекратился. Внезапно, с сентября. Внезапно, с сентября прекратился фильм ужасов. Какие-то маленькие ужастики, иногда там что-то такое мелкое может присниться, но сказать, что вот прям фильмы ужасов, которые меня одолевали все это время, нет, они закончились.
I noticed that when I dream, the dreams are very intense and there are many people around me, more than I'm used to. And the interactions are, I can feel that I'm in a war zone, but I just know it's there.
I know I go places when I dream. I think most of us do. Some of them I would remember. Some of them would be traumatic. Feeling trapped, feeling lost, feeling, on one extreme. Other extremes of dreams, I would be teaching. I would be standing up in front of a group of beings in my dream state, at least as the human remembered it. And I would be teaching about spiritual things, consciousness things. So I would be teaching, and then I'd wake up and I would be tired and such. So my dream state has always been pretty active. They're fairly lucid, fairly graphical. Some people say they don't remember their dreams. I tend to remember more, maybe than most. And they're very detailed, they're very colorful, they're very, specific.
I wasn't much of a dreamer. I mean, I didn't remember dreams. I know I dreamed, but I don't remember what I dreamed. But as Heaven's Cross was getting closer, I started remembering dreams. And it was fun, but sometimes really weird and strange. But when you go into those dream states, it's sticky. I think in my case, it's stickier, those issues, and it's really difficult to release. But they keep coming to me every time, and I try to be conscious in the dream state and trying to let go, and that happened a couple of times, and kept on. I just had to keep on releasing and overcoming.
My night dreams have been very interesting, and there has been some dreams that have given me a very interesting insight into, I mentioned shedding identities, and identities of how I perceive myself energetically, and that the structures I've had to manage my own internal energy are being challenged in the dreams.
Dreams, I feel like dreams are just getting crazier and crazier. When the Hyman's Cross came, that's when I started editing the book. So obviously, because any book we write, it's in a way also integration for us, right? So the reason why I'm saying that is I would always kind of have dreams that also reflect what I'm writing about, which also reflect what I'm integrating. So it was all kind of connected. And so that's how I knew it had to do in my past, because, if I'm talking about Yeshua time, then I have those kind of dreams, the feelings. I don't really get so much stories. I did. Atlantis was actually maybe the most I got out of my dreams when it comes to the story.
A lot of us are seeing very difficult dreams right now.
Oh, yeah, there are. Actually, I do see difficult dreams. I mean, like when I see one of those dreams, it's like, oh, okay, I'm still hanging on to those things, and okay, I need to let that go.
Just become aware that, okay, that part is still very, very stuck. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it can help us. Maybe when you are in the dream state, maybe there is no resolution, but here, once you become aware of that part, you'll find a way to release it consciously. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can be frustrating.
That's how I experience my dreams. And then in the dream, you see like, oh, you have to make a decision going right or left, for example, just to make an example. And then I'm like, yeah, of course, as the observer of the dream, I'm like, oh, of course I would go right, go right. But in the dream, I'm going left. I'm like, fuck, why are you going left? So I'm kind of upset about my dream, that I'm not listening to myself in the dream. But then it made me realize, wait, just give it its freedom. I don't have to control, my dream. So it's also just another experience. That's maybe one of the changes for me.
Во-первых, случаются всегда маленькие такие волшебства, которые не то, что они раньше не случались, но сейчас они случаются гораздо чаще. Такое вот маленькое волшебство. Каждый раз кажется, что ты упираешься в какую-то стену, и система, и матрица сильнее тебя, и ты не можешь своей головой пробить эту стену, потому что эта матрица в какой-то момент раз, и все растворяется. И решение приходит из ниоткуда. Ангел спустился, помахал крылышками, и ситуация растворилась, и ты можешь пройти сквозь эту стену. Стена перестала существовать. Вот эти вот, конечно же, такие маленькие события в жизни, они происходят.
Even at work, there was like this one project, I really felt overwhelmed. I'm like, fuck, this is too much work. And I couldn't really force them how to solve it. And then suddenly, I really, similar how I found Crimson Circle Way, I stumbled over this one solution within the same company that already had what I was supposed to build. It was really interesting. Like, wow, it's already there. Yes. So these kind of coincidences were suddenly, in this case, my mind was worried and stuff, but then it's like the saying, hey, let it come to you. So the solution just came to me, right? It was already solved. It was really fascinating to experience it that directly.
Actually, you can see the trophies here. Like I I tried for almost 10 years to win the best studio in a company for like 10 years. And even before that, when I didn't own the studio, I tried that and I just couldn't do it. And it's funny, you know, your mind tells you, okay, your business is going to fail, you're going to be broke. But then, you know, my manager calls me and says like, oh, your teachers want top teachers and the studio won the top studio award. And, oh, we're really sorry that we missed you there, but somehow we got it. And I was like, damn, how is this possible? You know, so that's exactly the thing is actually start being even better. You know, everything was just working out, and it was actually much better than before. But exactly the point that Saint Germain was trying to prove is like it actually works out better when you let go. But it's hard for my mind. It was hard. So for my mind, it was really, really difficult. So that was my personal biggest leap, to really trust that everything's going to work out. So that's from that kind of human perspective what really changed my life and got easier. I was really in grace.
Recently, I've been getting like lots of synchronicities. What do you think kind of comes? Not always, but things that you're thinking about or wondering about, and the answers come through, not only, it can be from yourself, but from social media too. I'm having fun with it because it's amazing. We didn't have such experiences, and it makes me feel like we're really creators. I can see lots of potentials now that can be for the good.
Any things that on the opposite are becoming more difficult?
Yeah, I feel like I am becoming more sensitive, which I had hoped would not be the case after the realm work, but it seems to continue. Like I can't watch the news, so I have no idea what's going on. Like I could watch the news, but it's just, it feels so horrible that I don't. So I don't know what's going on politically in my country, for example. Have to be very selective with what kind of content I consume online or on TV, or how I spend, with what people I spend my time with. So I feel like that's affecting a lot of things.
It feels like I'm more sensitive, even more than before now, to energies. More difficult is when I'm around people who where I can feel they are really their energy is distorted, or they want to push someone else, or like hearing commercial and in the radio. It's getting harder because they open their mouth and I can feel how silly it is, how they want to manipulate you so much with the easier things, and I can't hardly stand it, so I turn it off.
I would say that my tolerance for violence in the mass media has just gotten, I just don't want those images in my head. I'll tap into the news and get the feed of what's happening, but I don't want to bring that into my personal life in terms of any entertainment I watch. It just has gotten harder to tolerate the absolute folly of it.
I guess I am sensitive, and but it helps me translate the Crimson Circle materials or the Kihak. Sometimes the energy is so heavy that you can't move forward with the translations, and sometimes I have to take a break.
But if you were to take, I don't know, a few seconds to really feel into it, which percentage of that difficulty, of that heaviness that you're feeling in the translation is actually yours, like something that you perceive from your own perspective, and which percentage is actually of those people who are going to be reading that translation?
That's a good question. I never
just feel
thought
into
about
it,
that.
like take a few seconds, like feel into it, like close your eyes if you need to.
Okay, what comes to my mind is like 70% is the heaviness of that the other people feel, and yeah, I think the other is mine.
Does it feel different for you now being in public places where there's a lot of people?
I kind of enjoy, like, for example, airports. It's funny, it also depends which airline I'm using. I really like, my specific air, I really like it. And I enjoy it, and I go to the lounge. If I have like a 5-hour, layover, I go to the lounge, get my cappuccino, Baileys, whatever, and just do my stuff. And I find it fascinating. Then watching people watching is actually fascinating. But at the same time, also, so airports I'm okay, but sometimes I can't deal with people and I need my own space.
I feel more sensitive than ever, but at the same time, it's maybe I feel like I don't get so lost in mass consciousness anymore. Or if I do get lost, I kind of catch myself pretty quickly and kind of come back to that connection with myself. So I don't have that feeling that I'm drowning in mass consciousness.
But you're probably not the kind of a person who would be in mass consciousness a lot, meaning you're not connected with a lot of social work, where you don't go to public places all that much. Is that correct?
Yeah, I tend to avoid them because of my sensitivity. I'm also very sensitive to sounds, to kind of loud music, or just when there's discordant sounds. So it's a little bit hard to go to like pubs or restaurants. But my client work, that's kind of, my clients are in mass consciousness, most of them. So it's like, in a way, in that work, I still kind of go into that space.
Mass consciousness isn't in my everyday life. Because I'm away from people, I usually don't hear the noise of cars. People aren't around me at the moment. So it's really easy. And so in normal life, it's easy. When I go out to do something, I'm prepared. And it's not that often that happens. So I think if it's everyday life that you experience mass consciousness, it would be rough.
Я себя берегу, я себя оградила от людей, контакты только с друзьями, теми людьми, которых я хочу видеть, либо с матрицей для делания каких-то дел. Сильно матрица пока не ставила палки в колеса, но тем не менее эмоциональное состояние, предвкушение, что сейчас, как сказать, этот момент может наступить, судя по тем темным аспектам, которые подходят. Да? Вот этот страх возникает.
I'm not so good with people anymore. It seems like it feels like I'm losing my compassion for some people.
Losing your patience, maybe.
Maybe patience, maybe compassion. It's just starting that I get really annoyed of people who just want to steal energy more than before.
I got more easily triggered. Especially after Heaven's Cross was interesting. After Heaven's Cross, I thought, okay, now it comes to relaxing phase, and But then I really lost it once, where I'm like, I could observe myself getting like triggered. And I'm like, why I'm so triggered, But at the same time I was triggered, and I really like let it out. It was just interesting to see, it was new for me to kind of really let it out basically at that point. And I was like, wow, I didn't expect that now with Heaven's Cross, I think you're more compassionate, and it's like, oh, okay. The tolerance level is just, it's, there's no tolerance for any bullshit kind of thing, right?
I feel when I'm with other people, sometimes I have clients or friends, I much quicker get tired of listening to their patterns that they are just vehemently holding on to, and anything I suggest, I validate what they're saying, but when I just when I suggest something else, it goes past what they want to look at, and I mean that's fine. But I much quicker get tired of it, right?
It's just so boring. I cannot handle mundane human, let's call it complaints or whatever it is. I'm like, shit, I wasted 10 seconds of my life. I could have edited my book or whatever, dance. I don't have any tolerance for wasting my experience on bullshit, So.
And what do? Do you just turn around and walk away?
Literally, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
That's nicer than yelling at someone, right?
Yes, or triggering their aspects, which I used to do a lot. But I integrated a lot of my asshole aspects. So I just kind of I would eat popcorn in my head, be like, cool story, bro. It's beautiful. I love your story. Not. And then I would just turn away.
I am more quick-tempered. I'm watching it happen more and more. In our first interview, I think I said I have a high degree of intolerance. Well, I think that intolerance has gotten even higher. Sometimes I just hate everybody. I hate the world. I just hate the pettiness. I hate being in the grocery store. I just have no tolerance for the crap that people are doing and saying. And then I calm that back down. But I see more into the games and the drama and can we say muggle? Kind of the muggle aspect of people. And just, so I can be very observant and very compassionate and simultaneously absolutely intolerant. I am over this. I am done with this. I don't like this. This is not my choice.
And at the same time, there was also a lot of, to some positive stuff. But on the other hand, I'm also meeting more and more amazing people where I'm like, wow, that's kind of, where yeah, the earth is in a good place, because there's all these amazing people that are there and doing their thing. And so it's interesting, this kind of just more extreme in both ways.
How about relationships with other people and having other people around? If you were to track that or to give an overall review of how it's different right now, what would you say?
Again, it's just hard and hard to relate to find. To me, it's hard to find that common ground with them. And I'm talking about, I call it Muggleville, when I'm just for example, when I was in Connecticut in my business, and they're wonderful people. They're beautiful, beautiful people, amazing, kind. But the things they care about is completely something that is so removed from my reality. So it's really hard for me relate to them, to talk about things, you know. So I have to find things that we can relate to, and it's usually my opportunistic self talking about my book or something, or dancing, obviously, you know, we can talk about dancing, but if you're not on a dance floor or in Chamberlain, it's really hard for me to relate. Yeah.
To me, communication is something where you are, it's like a resonance. You are a resonance room for the other person. And I feel with some people, the resonance compatibility is very small. I mean, like I can feel like this, and maybe this a part of me is compatible with the other person. That's what the other person can take in from me. And other times it's bigger, but actually with Shaumbra, I feel, and especially in the healing with normal other people, that's actually the only experiences I have had of having this shared communication on all levels of my being, right?
You know, Shaumbra, they're so helpful. Like they support you. Of course, Adamus supports us, but you know, Adamus is ascended, and he's, you know,
a little bit further away.
Yeah.
It's a very wise thing to do, to allow others into your space for them to be support for you, because one needs to be able to accept that support. Not everybody is capable of that.
That is true. That is true. And support doesn't always mean that it's comfortable. Sometimes it could be really uncomfortable, but even if it's uncomfortable at that time, later it can be a day after, a week later, or whatever, you realize that you made that uncomfortableness, and then you can be grateful for your Shaumbra friends.
It has been sometimes loneliness, because there are very few people that I'm connected to who see me for who I am, and so I can have like other friends and I enjoy their company, but it's like they see one facet of me, and it's like, what about, you know, the 100 other facets? they're not seen. So I feel sometimes lonely because of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, lonely, but then again, that's how you get into your own space, right? When you get lonely and bored with or upset with everybody else,
you have to connect with yourself.
I am glad that I am alone. I think it's a co-creation with my soul. Like my human was like procrastinating, moving out of Tokyo was a big challenge for me, but I'm glad I went over it. Yes, I think we're getting closer to that state, being single, sovereignty, alone, and to get there, we have to take big steps.
Mm-hmm. And it feels alone when we are not used to it, but once we're sovereign, we're just it's not called alone anymore. It's called self-sufficient.
That's maybe the big difference than before, where before it would be difficult for me. I would feel lonely, right? I think we're all there in awakening part where like, oh, you know, I miss people, I miss it. And then obviously now it's like, oh, no, I totally don't miss it. I'm totally fine. So it actually helps me. It feels good that I don't have to do that anymore. I am more and more enjoying that space where I don't have to relate, when I'm just completely in my creation. And then it's beautiful. Like I don't have to worry about it. Just people who really resonate the same way I do, they just show up in my reality, which is beautiful. Is it dancing? Is it a workshop? Is it, talking to somebody like you or over the phone? Suddenly those people show up in your reality, and then everything else fades away. So it kind of self-regulates itself. Yeah.
What I've done for myself is released a lot of judgment and my need to judge myself. And in that, I just let people be who they are and don't need to judge them anymore. Along that line, I would say that by my own clarity and just being simply present to the other person for what they're saying and who they are, I don't try to think up what I'm going to respond. So it allows me to just simply be there with them.
How about your perception of other people? In the past couple of months, has anything changed about that?
It's just a real challenge when we find ourselves around family that are still stuck in the swirl of mass consciousness and chaos and drama and old ways of dealing with things. And that's exhausting, It's just absolutely exhausting. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm more insightful maybe, or I think I've always been quite insightful, but I see into people more, I see through people more. I have a lot of compassion, but I also just have no tolerance. I don't even want to be around sometimes when it's getting off the rails.
Yeah, it's very hard when it's family members. If it's somebody else, even if it's colleagues, sometimes you can quit your job or do something else. But with family,
I was playing a lot of the mediator role in my family with my parents, and so that is a big change. Like I finally learned to stop doing that because it's just not serving anyone, and it's definitely not healthy for me. So kind of stepping out of like meddling with other people's problems and just taking more distance.
I would say there is this trust, deepening trust in and relaxation in whatever arises. And sometimes I'm less relaxed, and it's even on the bodily level. Definitely, I call it the headless chicken, when the body does what it's used to doing, like resistance, or in a relationship, let's say with another being, some fear coming up, and there's this and then I just kind of invite myself to notice that and relaxing and just riding that wave as well. Okay, fear coming up. Okay, I have this old fear here, and I can express it to the other person or whatever, and then we can just go and grow from there.
Things have come up which are old aspects of mine. For example, people pleasing has been a modus operandi for me, and in a one-on-one relationship, if I do everything perfectly and people please, then everything's going to work out just dandy. And guess what? It doesn't. If I please you and you love me, then I can love myself. And I'm finding that I wake up in the morning and I feel love for myself. I feel it here. And then it's just like, it's so warm, it's so wonderful. And it's got nothing to do with anyone else. But I can bring that into communication with another person and not be afraid of that vulnerability.
So it's interesting. I think with with Heaven's Cross, when the awareness is kind of wide open. And then I think we feel way easier, what's going on behind the curtain, kind of. So if there's like some games that are being played, or somebody has an agenda and stuff like that, and then I feel that, and then it's really intense. but when I go back to this awareness, it's my energy. I get like other insights, other perspectives, and then actually it's interesting to see how the situation dissolves then way easier. That's why I appreciate the effect that we go through it. I mean, when we think about, we could sit at the top of the mountain somewhere and just like, ohm away. That's easy, right? Then it's easy then to accept that as my energy. But when you're like in the midst of it and participate in life, then, we interact with other people. And so it's kind of really driving this home, what it actually, what does it mean in those situations to receive and to look at it as still my own energy in this whole world of so many dynamics. Yeah.